everybody, and welcome to the Unathletic, where today two unathletic guys tell the world's best athletes how to play their sport. We are going to be focusing on the Champions League. The quarterfinals are here. 8 of the best teams in world football are going to battle it out for the greatest honor in football. The best players, the best managers, what's missing? Two great analysts who's going to tell these guys exactly what to do.
Let's go.
Joining me is my fellow unathletic friend, Po.
Hello.
Let's get started. What do you say?
This year's Champions League. I wanted to start by talking about the Champions League and the format also, because it's a completely new, different thing, right? So instead of the regular group stages, we have this 36 teams vying it out for a spot. So the first 8 teams, for people who don't know, the first 8 teams, they get an automatic qualification into the round of 16.
Yeah.
Teams from 9 to 24, they have to go through an additional round to play the playoffs, if you could call it that.
I mean, it's like a round of 32, but for some teams only. Like,
so they get to play another round called the playoffs, and the teams after 25 to 36, they are out of the competition.
Yeah, that's
there
right.
have been no teams that have dropped into the Europa League.
Yeah.
So this is a new format that we're in. So it's still being tried and tested as of now. People cannot say exactly, even Opta and different analysts, they can't properly predict who the winners are going to be, because it's still
it's anyone's game.
Yeah, it's anyone's game. Like, the format's still being tested out. So because of that, it seems like the initial few years are going to be exciting. I'd say so. There was a lot of pushback to this new format.
Yeah.
So I'm on the side. I'm on the optimistic side here, thinking that it'll turn out to be a good format in the way it turns out.
As a fan for a club who's in the Champions League, I guess. He's an Arsenal fan. If that jersey.
If it isn't obvious enough.
But I think it's like you get more games to watch for your team, which is always a plus, right? And I feel like, in this tournament, I've been more of a neutral since United are in the Europa League. For me, I didn't follow the group stages that closely, even though there were like some more big games.
Yep.
The amount of jeopardy in those games didn't really show itself.
On
the last 2 games, I think there were a lot of combinations with PSG going through, City needing a win and all of that kind of stuff. But when it comes to knockout football, that Champions League kind of vibe is back. And
but on the flip side, though, I could count like the group stages of the previous format. I'd say it was mundane and it was like a drag, because you had to play the same teams home and away.
Yeah.
Here you play against you play 8 games in total in the group stages, and you play against new opposition every single time.
Yeah.
And there's no home leg, there's no return leg, there's none of that. So it's always, every game is a jeopardy state, I think, because teams still don't know how to go about the group stages as
That's
of now.
true, because they don't know. Now we have a reference for how many points might be enough. Right?
Because
but going into it, it's difficult.
If everyone looks at it the way Liverpool dealt with it, they won every single game except the last game.
Yeah.
And that particular last game decided the draw on who they'd face next. And
Correct.
you also saw how that turned out, because they didn't make it to the round of 16.
And I guess for the fans, of course, more games, it's going to be a lot more fun. But for clubs like Liverpool, they might be like, hey, we were outstanding in the group stage. How do we get rewarded? Pre-quarterfinal tie against PSG, right? So, it's...
So you got more of those games in the group stages as well, because PSG ended up playing Bayern, they ended up playing Arsenal, they ended up playing Villa. No, I think Bayern played Villa.
Yeah, Bayern played Villa.
These kind of combinations you wouldn't get in a traditional group stage format. So that is one of the reasons why I'm leaning towards the newer format here.
Speaking of Bayern, let's get started with the first tie, which I think is probably the most exciting tie in the quarterfinal stage, which is Bayern Munich versus Inter Milan.
Yep.
Now, let's start with Bayern Munich. They needed a reaction this season, right?
Very much.
They were about to go 12 Bundesliga unbeaten. Unbeaten, I should say. Straight
titles.
And when you're a club the size of Bayern and the kind of position which they are in, you kind of expect that a Bundesliga is a bare minimum, right?
It's a given.
But they have the upstarts in Bayer Leverkusen, led by Xavi Alonso. They had to come back this season to show that they are still the premier club in Germany, and to an extent they seem to be doing that. They are ahead in the league. Not
6 points.
Just 6 points, not a very large margin. They were not great in the Champions League. They finished 12th in the group stage. But coming into this tie, they had a statement two-leg result against Bayer Leverkusen, and there were a lot of storylines within that game itself and the history, right? So in the previous 6 games which Bayern played against Leverkusen before that tie, they lost 3, drew 3, won 0. And in the last 4 games against Leverkusen, they scored just the 1 goal. So for them to come out and beat them 5-0 across 2 legs was a big surprise for some. But Pope, what do you think of Bayern as a team? And could you give us a bit more of a tactical breakdown of how they play?
Yeah, so like you said, it's been sort of a strange season that they've had. Like they've had their egos bruised last season.
Yeah.
Right? They couldn't get to the 12th title that they were
expecting.
That they took for granted.
Yeah.
So now this season, like you said, they're doing well. But this is in Bundesliga. Bundesliga will not give you the overall picture because it's Bundesliga. And coming to the Champions League, though, their form has been inconclusive, I'd say. Because look at the way they've played. They've beat this Super PSG team 1-0 in the group stages. But on the flip side, they went and lost to Feyenoord 3-0 in Rotterdam. So they've had their ups and downs. They even lost to Aston Villa also.
1-0 to Aston Villa.
So it's inconclusive. The sample size is too little to put a verdict on how Kompany as a manager has been leading out this Bayern team and the way they've been performing. So I think it's still ways to go before we can put a proper verdict on them. But like you said, their recent form in the CL has been epic. But before we get to that, I want to touch upon their playoff game against Celtic.
Sure.
Yeah. So
mighty Celtic.
That was I think their most crucial week in this season's schedule, I'd say. But because they had to face Celtic, they had to face Leverkusen in between, and they had to face Celtic again. So the first leg in Glasgow, it was a 2-1 win. Barely managed to scrape through. Good. Leverkusen again 0-0. In the league, both the times they faced Leverkusen this season, it's been a 1-1 draw, and then the second return leg has been a 0-0 draw.
And just on that, I think that's very deliberate. I feel like they have tried to cancel out those games against Leverkusen in the league because that was a 6-point swing in the title run in last season. Especially one of the games, I believe it was a 2-0 or 3-0 defeat, which
I think it was towards the end of the...
Towards the end, it affected the Bayern Munich's title run. So I think the approach against Leverkusen in the league game was quite different from what ended up happening in the Champions League game.
So also coming back to the return leg of against Celtic, though, they played them at Allianz Arena and they conceded first, though. And they ended up having to resort to a 94th minute equalizer by Alphonso Davies to somehow manage to secure the tie and go through. And this was a huge issue because Celtic completely exposed Bayern. There's one word that I'd like to use to describe Bayern, which is fragility. Because as I said, they've been inconclusive. They've always looked vulnerable whenever teams have gone quick, direct, vertical attack instead of playing about here and there. They've been susceptible to these counterattacks and counter presses. Celtic managed to score against them in the return leg because of a very good counter press as well.
I remember that,
So because of this, teams moving quickly and vertically, Bayern can definitely get hurt. So this is also a pointer to the teams coming up. So if anybody wants to use me as a point of reference, so
Inzaghi, if you're listening.
So in attack, often what has been Bayern's problems are that they've been left isolated. Their attackers, either Coman, either Kane or Gnabry. Who's the other one? Olise. Olise. They've been left isolated against 3 or 4 defenders because by the time the ball gets to them and when they try to do quick transitions, no one else has caught up to them yet.
Yeah, and I think the only kind of glue link player between all of this so far this season has been Musiala. And I feel like they lean very heavily on Musiala in their build-up play and unlocking teams in the final third.
So they should ideally leverage these plus points that Musiala is offering them. They can ideally, one of the things that they can do is probably try to pair up Kane and Musiala in sort of a closer positional spacing, similar to what Dele Alli and Kane had in 2017, 2016 in Spurs. So that can be one of the ways, or they can be more quick and meaningful in their intent to attack, or it's just a lack of form. Kane has been, he's had his doubts. The German media are all questioning his ability to turn up on the bigger
German media or Arsenal fans. Because
I'm
for listeners, okay, he hates Kane. Okay, like he hates any Spurs player in general, but Kane especially. I mean, so am I getting an unbiased take over here?
Yeah, we're getting an unbiased take. Okay. I've kept all of that at the side.
Okay.
Because like lots of doubts were cast upon Kane. He did not show up in the bigger games. It doesn't matter if you're getting a hat-trick against the newly promoted side if it doesn't help them in to achieve their goals, which is to win the Champions League. But first come, first serve is the Bundesliga. First thing.
Yeah.
So in September also, he had a drought like of 3 to 4 games, I believe, and he did not score against any of them, and it was all a poor showing. So his doubts, there were a lot of doubts on him. That's why I wanted to bring this in, because this leads up to the tie of round of 16 after they managed to beat Celtic.
Yeah.
The way they performed in the last round, it's exceptional.
Really good.
One small segue I want to take here, the importance of individual duels, okay? You've all seen Arteta's All or Nothing, where he kept specifying duels. I mean, I get it, you're laughing here, but this is with a proper context that I'm bringing here.
Okay.
Guardiola also, 2 years ago after winning the Champions League, he said that after the year we've had, we faced Salah, we faced Sane, we faced Saka and Martinelli.
Yeah.
And looking at the way they played, those dynamic wingers who are good one-on-one, regardless of the tactical and the positional way we set out, when it comes to 1v1, if we don't have defenders at the back who know how to deal with those 1v1 situations, it's pointless. They don't get a clear space. And that's the reason he bought Ake that particular season.
But like you said, I mean, that was very apparent in their game against Leverkusen, right? A lot of their goals were brought about by these situations, by going in for the tackle, by pressing a little bit harder, by making sure that when there's a trigger for the press, the entire team goes in together. And I mean, we don't have a large sample size with Vincent Kompany as a manager. But if there's one thing which typified him as a player, it's this, right? It's aggression when you're going in for your tackles. And through some of those training videos you've seen, and even in Burnley at that time, he's getting at the players. He's always asking for a reaction. He's always asking for more from them. And I think that kind of workman kind of ethos is what he's trying to put into this Bayern team. And that's something which they'll really need to hold on to if they're going to have to compete with the big boys and the stronger teams in the Champions League. Coming to the stronger teams in the Champions League, let's now move to Inter Milan, who Poo and I have become very big fans of over the course of the last 24 hours, doing more and more research into the way they play.
200 games in as a manager, 133 wins.
66% win rate. At a time, by the way, where the Serie A has been probably the most competitive it's been for at least 2 decades, if not more than that. They are 3 points ahead in the title race above Napoli, but their Champions League form has been just outstanding. In the group stage, they finished 4th in the table, 1 draw, 1 loss, that's it. 1 goal conceded. I mean...
2.
No, 2, that was including the playoff which they had, but in the group stage, just 1 goal which they conceded. That was a game which they won, I think, 4-1 against Bayern or something, right?
So, I mean, before we move on to the CL form and the way they've been playing there, I just want to talk, like, they won the league last year. And this is especially after the year before they went to the Champions League final. So they lost that. They lost 5 of those players who played in the final. I think Onana, Lukaku, Dzeko, Skriniar and Brozovic. So 5 of them they lost, and they've signed only 2 people. And these 2 people, first of all, they were loan players converted into permanent signings. Zielinski and I forgot the other one, Mehdi Tarami. So these 2 they've acquired, and he's been given peanuts. He's been asked to maximize whatever he has with him. So he's done the best, absolute best.
I mean, there's a third member in the podcast /show today, the tactical board, and we're going to take a closer look at how Inter Milan play. But it's exactly what you said. I mean, their starting 11 seems so well set and strong, but the way they are all flexible in the way they position themselves, where they go to receive the balls, the runs they make. If there is space on the football pitch, they're there. And it doesn't matter who's there. If there is space, one of their players is going to attack it. And literally, when I say one of the players, it could be the wing back. It could be one of the 2 strikers. It could be, one of the three central midfielders. It could be a centre back as well. It's an incredible system of almost Cruyffian type of football.
I think it's more to that then. Like, it's different.
Yeah, it's not
total football exactly,
Yes.
but it's somewhere along those pages, I'd say, because they're flexible, they're fluid, and they're graceful.
So talk to us, Po, about their 3-2-3-5-2 kind of a setup, or however you
So as
want
Akshat said, they set out in a 3-5-2 shape. 3 centre backs with 2 8s, 2 wing backs, and 2 strikers up front. The strikers being Lautaro and Lilian Thuram, DeMarco, Dumfries. You have Alessandro Bastoni. You have Pavard and Acerbi here, and Mkhitaryan, Çalhanoğlu. I forget the third person's name here. Okay.
It'll come to me.
Yeah. Okay.
Barcola, no, what's his name?
Yeah.
Yeah, the extremely technical, gifted playmaker Italian team. Barella. Yes.
Okay. So this is how they set up usually, and one of the good things is they've been able to maintain the strong 11 throughout.
Yes.
Whenever it matters, like they haven't been hit with much. Although there is one area here, their left back has been like hyper localized injury crisis they've had.
Yeah.
They don't know who to play here because every available conventional option is gone. I'll come to that, but this is how they set up. But the beauty of their tactical setup is what they do in possession. Say for example, this is Bayern. Yeah, you can call them Bayern.
Yeah.
So when Kane or any of their attacker presses up front here with the support, and all of them try to high press them, we're knowing that Kompany is looking to play with more energy, more physicality, and try to get the game to the opposition. So when they do that, what you expect normally is
a red card.
What you normally expect is teams trying to play among themselves, trying to play and maintain their structural positions without having to move about much. But what Inter does is they drop their centre mids into defense here. All of them come back here. Okay? So they create a defensive overload. It's not an attacking overload. They create a defensive overload wherein even though they don't care about how many players you put on the press because they have more here. They'll play the ball amongst themselves. They'll pass it about here. And then there's this pocket of space that opens up here. Completely empty, right? One of these centre backs makes a darting run all the way here. Another follows. And since they're playing centre mids here, the beauty is that, especially Çalhanoğlu, who's been an epic number 10 all these years, he's been converted into the most dynamic, holding midfielder, deep lying playmaker, you could call it.
His progressive passing and finding long balls has been just absolutely key to the way.
Next level.
And I would say he's probably the most important player in this setup because, as Post said, you have midfielders moving into the back line all the time during build-up and centre-backs going forward. And like Post said, I mean, the centre-backs might be coming in, but the wing-back might pop in over here. Thuram might pop in over here. Lautaro might pop in over here. The space which is created, like I was saying, anyone can attack that space and anyone can find those people in that space as well. One thing which they're really good at is when a centre back, like again, as a midfielder drops and the centre back is free to make a run, you will see someone come into the space over here.
Usually
the
Lautaro.
Ball goes out to Lautaro. This guy is not going to stop here.
I saw the sequence of play. He runs here.
He goes all the way here.
No, but the beauty is when the centre mid drops here, he brings 2 players of the opposition team with him. And the same applies to when Lautaro drops. The other opposition player comes with him.
And now you have...
The centre back is free to make a darting run
all the way here.
Through.
And if you have someone coming in to block this, then that opens the entire flank and that's the long pass which is available, right?
So these centre mids, they have space, they have time, and they have the technical ability in Çalhanoğlu and Mkhitaryan to go aboard with those long passes and get it accurately. And they have acres of space to run into after that.
Absolutely. And I mean, that is something which is so exciting to see in this Inter team, that you don't know who is going to end up scoring or getting into a dangerous position. Now, some stats to back what we just said. In this season, they have had 17 different goal scorers.
Wow.
20 different people who have given an assist.
Wow.
16 of their players has given both a goal and an assist. 16.
Incredible. This is like a manager's wet dream though.
Yeah. And I mean, before we move on, one final thing we have to talk about, because I know that you're a fan of some old school centre forward play. 2 striker systems are back, baby.
Let's go.
We've done it.
Let's
Sean
go.
Dyche is going to be so proud.
I mean, the short king and the tall guy. Let's go. I mean, Lautaro, I'd hate to call him the short king, but
he's a king and he's short. It's fine. Yeah. All right. So very briefly, one prediction on how this tie is going to. I mean, anything could happen, because if Bayern show up the way they did against Leverkusen, no matter how good Inter are.
So one thing I've left a particular quote from this article that I was looking up.
Okay.
So Champions League is usually considered to be the most intricate and tactically sound like tournament than the regular league competitions, right? Because there's more to offer and it's a long running competition.
Yeah.
But usually the case is that more often than not, it ends up favoring the most experienced players as well as the most established teams.
Absolutely true.
So, the next team, Madrid or whatever is coming.
I was just going to say, like, you said it. I don't have to say anything else.
So that's what, like, all of this is in the water if Bayern show up the way they did against Leverkusen.
Okay.
But I don't know if I can give my predictions for the round yet or not, but
it's totally okay, because I think this is a tie which is extremely difficult to call, because there's so many possibilities in the way this plays out. But if you happen to think which tie you want to watch, you're not sure which one you should watch, highly recommend this one. This one is going to be an absolutely incredible watch.
My bets are on Inter, by the way.
Yeah, me too. I mean, like I said, we're fanboys.
Yep.
Moving on to 2 rather inexperienced teams in the Champions League, we're going to be talking about the PSG versus Aston Villa time. Maybe not spend too much time on this tie, because I think we all believe PSG are the ones who are going to go through. They are the much stronger team. Yep. Aston Villa have been extremely inconsistent this season, but they have had a great time in the Champions League. Like, the Champions League nights which they have been providing to their fans.
It's the first time in a while that they've been back, no?
Yeah, it's been a really long time. Very difficult to predict how Aston Villa are going to play, because their key player in the group stages, or I would say their impact player in the group stages, is no longer at the club. John Duran has gone to Saudi. But in January, they've got in 2 people who are now the main people at the club, who is Asensio and Rashford. Yeah. Now, as a Manchester United fan, it was a very ugly divorce with Rashford. Someone we had a very.
Is it a divorce or a break?
How much time do we have?
6 months. We have 6 months.
I don't know, man. I think he needs to get out of Manchester and the whole media pressure and all of that. But I mean, that's a whole other topic. But one thing not a single United fan will ever be able to say about Rashford is that he did not show up in the big games. He is a true big game player. His record against the Big 6 speaks for itself. His record in the Champions League and Europa League. In Europa League especially, since United have spent more time over there, scoring great important goals against, let's say, like PSG in the Champions League, right? That penalty. Against Barcelona in the Europa League. He's there, right? So he is someone who can truly be that X factor, and he loves playing against PSG. So that could be one person to watch. Like I said, it's difficult to kind of predict how Aston Villa are going to go, but we're going to now switch our attention on PSG. PSG, I mean, what a brilliant 2-leg performance against Liverpool.
It was a good tie to watch.
It was, and I mean, there were 4 halves of football which were played, out of which I would say PSG were quite dominant for 3 of them. They absolutely thrashed Liverpool in the home leg, somehow ended up losing 1-0. And at that stage, everyone thought that, it's done. It's done, right? And then they came out and they played so well in that tie as well. Liverpool got a foothold of the game in the second half.
Yep.
But overall, I mean, it was just an amazing tie to watch. The way PSG have been playing in the bigger games of the Champions League this season have been really, really good. Now, I want to, before I come to you, Po, I want to talk a little bit about the shift in perspective from PSG, right?
That is the main talking point here.
Exactly. So they went from signing the biggest names in football to more tactical signings. Yep. They're still spending a lot of money, right? But it's like
an RCB, like call back to the last episode.
Oh shit, dude, you're right. That's slightly depressing. But so it was like if you give 400 million to a 12-year-old, he would buy Ramos, he would buy Messi, he would buy Mbappe, he would buy these kind of players, right? But if you give 400 million to a tactical think tank, to Luis Enrique and like a good sporting director who's looking for the long-term future of the club, you make these signings like Kvaratskhelia, Joao Neves, who I'm a big fan of, Desiree Doué, what a talent. Kolo Muani, Goncalo Ramos, maybe not the best, but
he's
Dembele,
a good stand-in striker.
Absolutely. So, I mean, they've made these kind of signings. So, I guess my question to you now, Po, in a nutshell, is that how does a team improve after losing Messi, Neymar and Mbappe?
I mean, the owner, director, Nasser Al-Khelaifi, if he came out and said this team is the star now.
Okay.
It's not, there's no particular star in the team anymore.
It took him, 15 years to learn that
finally he realized it. He finally realized it, guys. So, that's a good thing, though. But coming to the way they beat Pool, though, like, just to sidetrack a bit. The running, man, like you said, like, all the team composition is such that Luis Enrique wants the energy, the effort to be the first things that are visible and clearly identifiable by the team.
And that's driven by like that midfield engine which he's able to create, and then the work rate he's able to create across that team.
Like, if you look at the teams of the past, the PSG, like a couple of years ago, they usually ended up, they disregarded defense as an important thing, I would say. As a watcher, I felt that, because
I mean, they would get good defenders in, but like the defensive structure was not there.
And there was not much focus placed on the defensive structure of the team, I would say. Because off the ball and with the ball, they'd end up in a formation of 7, no midfield and 3 at the back. That's all. Like, everyone would be up front for them, and that did not, like, we all saw how that worked out. I mean, in Liga on that pace, I think they can manage to survive by playing that way. But coming to the Champions League, it's very costly if they play like that, and we've all seen how it turned out for them in the recent years.
I mean, you can't just develop bad habits because you know you're winning in the league and then expect it to just magically turn around in
it's not a good way to go look forward to the season. They play now with more hunger and lesser ego. That's the main thing I'd say for this team. Like, they had huge egos in the dressing room.
Absolutely.
They've gotten rid of all of them now. So it's, as a collective, they're performing good. Then midfield, bro. It's the key. Fabian Ruiz, from his Euro campaign last year.
I mean, what a Euro campaign that was.
He was excellent
last year. I think with Yamal and Dani Olmo, he was probably their best player.
Like, he brings the physicality to this team. Couple that with Vitinha, who's an excellent holding midfielder with good control. And finally, the wonder kid, Joao Neves, that you're talking about.
Wow, what a player, man! There are some players in world football who I just love, and he's one of them. Just the way he's able to.
It's seeing that humble kid with his shirt tucked in and knee-high socks. It sort of paints a good image, doesn't it? It's nice. He has this rare ability combination, I'd say, like, of energy and insane close control. He has the physicality and the energy of your midfielders that you expect teams to have now, and the way they perform, like your Rices and your Caicedos. But he has the guile and the control of your number 10s of the past. Like, we don't play number 10s anymore, much of the teams don't. But
this is a weird comparison, but is he like a pocket Busquets? Like, the way he's able to control the ball in tight spaces, and that ability to find his team and get out of close, presses and those kind of conditions. I'm not saying he's as good as Busquets, because no one is as good as Busquets in that role.
In this team, I think Vitinha fits that bill, that role.
He plays a bit deeper.
And Neves, on the other hand, is more box to box, but with
both
incredible guile. Like, he has that technical flair also with him. So it's a very good watch to have him there. And he's been, like, if you go through what Benfica academy coaches and their first team managers have to say about him, it's all rave reviews. There's not one negative remark about his upbringing, about his performances in the academy or in the first team when he was called upon. Again, I like the way these regional medias quote them. For example, Parisian media called him Verratti without the cigarettes and without the nightlife. He's that.
Brilliant. I would like a player who's a Verratti without cigarettes and nightlife. Yeah, sure. So just to finish off on PSG, then are they good enough to win this Champions League?
No, they're not good enough to win it. I'd say. They're going to get there. They're going to get far. It's again back to what I said the previous when we were talking about the experience. They still have a way to go. I mean, also, but they're getting past this tie because it's Luis Enrique. He's been there. He's done it. He has the experience. And funnily enough, it was Luis Enrique's Barca who beat Emery's PSG in that crazy remontada all those years ago. It's them against each other.
That's a nice little side plot to the game, yeah. Okay, now moving on to the next fixture. I was going to spend time on this, but Po, you've already said the experienced team gets through, so Madrid are beating Arsenal.
Ouch!
I mean, you said it.
I wore the Arsenal jersey as well.
We can spend 10 minutes going back and forth, but we know what's going to happen, right?
Let's do so, still.
Okay. Now, let's talk about Arsenal first. What is this tie going to tell you whether this is a successful season? Because the domestic cup competitions are gone. You're second place in the Premier League, right? A deep Champions League run makes this a much better season, at least like from the optics point of view. But a quarter-final exit of Champions League, not getting close to any trophies, is that a good season for you now?
I wouldn't call it a good season because there's quite a few factors in it.
So it's a bad season.
It's an okay season. It's not a great season. There's nothing much to talk about in the future if we do go about in the
it's a wasted season.
I mean, the only good things about this season would have, if we do go out, touch wood that we don't. If we do go out, the only good points about this season will be Ethan Vaneri and Miles Lewis-Kelly. That's all.
Okay.
Right now as well, that those two are the biggest highlights of this season. The way they've come about, like, how often is it? We all know academy players. Barely like single digits, like if you consider percentage wise of them get through, if you consider them being there in the academy from 8 years old or 7 years old, them making it in the first team, the chances are very rare. Like we all know hundreds of academy players who would have been rejected for every one
for every success story. There are 10 players who have to play in the lower leagues or quit football altogether.
So imagine when these two kids from the age of 6 or 7, they've been together in the academy, gone year by year together, been the best of mates, make it in the first team together and break through like this. Like,
I mean, it must be so rare because I can't think of many examples like Giggs, Neville, Scholes, Nicky Butt.
But this is the class of 92 you're talking about.
I can talk about Kobe Mainu, I can talk about Alejandro Garnacho.
Both of them didn't go through the same like cycles and the years right from the start. Garnacho came somewhere in the middle, I believe.
Garnacho came pretty towards the end of his youth development. Yes.
One more example you could have cited was Saka and Emil Smith-Rowe, but
I mean, I'm not getting into who has the better academy. Let's not get into that.
No, that wasn't the point you brought it up. But so that's a plus point of Arsenal's season. So that's the only thing that we have to show for before we get into the Champions League.
Yeah.
I mean, I know we beat the who did we play against? I forgot the name. Okay, we beat the team that we played against last round 7-1 in the first leg, and the second leg we ended up fielding front three of Mikel Merino. Raheem Sterling and Kieran Tierney.
Okay, I mean beating Dutch teams
I'm not talking about beating the Dutch teams. I'm talking about the situation we're left in because of our injuries.
Okay.
We've had to play a front three of Kieran Tierney, Raheem Sterling and Mikel Merino. That was the situation we're in now. But fingers crossed, our main man is back.
So that's an interesting segue because you spoke about Manieri being the reason he's got the opportunity this season is largely down to Saka's injury. And now Saka, of course, is your talisman. And of course, I mean, there's no other tie where you can like save him for, right?
Yeah.
If he's 50% fit, he will have
You have to play him.
So what difference does Saka make in this team? How much does he improve your chance? And be biased, be like full on Arsenal blind faith. How much of a difference is he going to make?
He does. He is the essence of this team. Like all those years ago, like 3-4 years ago under Ammar, when we were performing so poorly, he came out and said like, "I'm sorry, Gunners." Like he came and accepted it, owned it, and from then on, he's been the guy. He's Mr. Arsenal to all of us who are watching the team follow. He's our key contributors in terms of assists, in terms of goal scoring. He's the one who creates chances out of nothing for us. it's next level, and the combinations that he can bring up with Timber at the back and Odegaard next to him, I don't think Nonari, even though he's been performing brilliantly, can emulate that. As of now, he can't emulate it. And his left foot finishing, right foot finishing, all of them are next level. So Saka is the perfect package, and he knows he's been there in the big stages. He's been to the Euro finals. He's been in the Champions League this year. That's all. But yeah, apart from that, Saka is there. He owns up he owns the whole game.
Okay.
He's the one to step up. So for us to have Saka back,
yeah,
it's beyond beautiful, I'd say.
Okay, and who's going to play up front for Arsenal?
Mikel Merino. I think we persist with Merino.
Okay.
That's the sad part, because we'll have to persist with him. Arteta is
and who's
stubborn.
Who's going to play the other wing?
Other wing? Yeah. Gabriel Martinelli. He's back. You were hoping that I would say Sterling?
No. I mean, Martinelli, Saka and Merino, wow. What a front three. It puts shame to Vinicius, Rodrigo and Kylian Mbappe.
Horrible, isn't it? I know our prospects aren't great, especially it's against Madrid. This is like the Champions League team, the team. I mean, you can't put any amount of superlatives to Madrid and it be enough with it. Like, more and more.
There's an asterisk, which is that this Madrid team has not had as good a season. You have to take into consideration that Cruz, who is the talisman in the way that Madrid built up their play, is not there anymore, and that has led to teething issues with this new setup. But they have don't worry about it. I will get to the butt for. Do not worry about it. Okay, they have defensive injuries. They have had Carvajal out. They've had Militao out. They've had Ferland Mendy out. Courtois has some kind of a scare, but I believe he will be fit for the Champions League tie. Dani Ceballos has been out. So, I mean, they have had a lot of injuries to contend with as well. Not the greatest form in the league or the Champions League.
But
it's
Madrid.
Dude, they're so much stronger. And look, here's the thing, okay?
For the life of them, they can't manage to beat Atleti in the league, okay? No. But when it comes to the Champions League...
It does not matter. See, here's the thing. And I know what's going to happen. I know that at home or maybe even away, Arsenal are going to come out and be like, oh, we created more chances than Madrid. We had more possession than Madrid. Did you see how solidly defensive?
It's all going to go for a toss in the Bernabeu.
No, it's not even that, bro. The thing about Madrid is it's not that difficult to play better than Madrid in the Champions League. It is impossible to beat them. There are two completely different things. And let me give you examples. And I've written down just the last few years, okay? Actually, let me start with the 2014 final, Atletico Madrid versus Real Madrid. People don't remember, Madrid did not play well that game, right? Then they came back and absolutely...
Sergio Ramos penalty.
They just destroyed Atletico Madrid, right? The 2022 Champions League run. In the quarters, 1-0 in the first leg, right? Down to PSG. Mbappe in the Bernabeu scores one goal. They're 2-0 down. Benzema scores a hat-trick, right? What happens after that? Play Manchester City in the semis. 4-3 down against Manchester City. What happens? They win. That's what they do. 2024, 2-2 leg at away against Bayern Munich. Bayern go 1-0 up in that leg. They're out. They're totally out. It looks like there's nothing left. Carlo Ancelotti raises his eyebrow, brings on Joselu, who scores 2 goals to win the game for them.
Oh shit.
What are you talking about, bro?
That's what.
You're not winning this.
I know I'm not. Like, I hope we do win it. But
I don't want to
prospects and all of the data that points towards Madrid winning, like it's incomprehensible, man, to expect Arsenal to go through this Madrid team who basically own the competition. Bring on the Super League, scrap the Champions League. I don't care. Like, screw their legacy.
So, I mean, and I don't even have to go that far back. This season, they had a 5-2 comeback victory against Dortmund. They were 2-0 down and scored 5 goals in the second half.
Dortmund.
Yeah, I mean, it is Dortmund who have been horrible, and we'll speak about that. I mean, or rather not speak too much about them in our next tie. But with Madrid, I mean, we can go into tactical breakdowns, but it's not Madrid's structure which make them good. It's their tactical flexibility to find solutions within games to do it. And you can only do that when you have quality in every single position. If your wingers are not able to beat the opposition fullbacks one-on-one, what will Ancelotti do? Ancelotti will just tell you play this as wide as you can, you play as wide as you can, make space, underlapping runs for your fullbacks, or
it doesn't matter.
or
All he has to do is
runs
raise his eyebrows and they'll end up scoring.
Exactly, right? So it reminds me a lot of Sir Alex Ferguson's Manchester United, where we did have a way to play, but within games managing how to find that extra gear, how to never be beaten, never know when you're beaten, make the most out of your opportunities. That is something which Madrid, it's very difficult to get out of Madrid, and we all know Arsenal are going to play absolute terrorist football. Like,
let's go, but the actual terrorists in Champions League have been Madrid. The way they've been setting about like complete defensive mindset, but it doesn't matter. It's Jogo Bonito up front. Randomly, the ball goes there, and then all of them suddenly Brazilian flair comes up. Even Madrid do that, but
yeah,
I don't.
But you guys have Merino up front, so I'm sure it'll be okay.
Hopefully, I mean, hopefully this comes back to bite Akshat in the ass, and Arsenal do end up going through. My predictions are, I know I'm going to be completely wrong here. Arsenal are going to go through.
Look into the camera and
Arsenal are going to completely go through and not demolish Madrid, but they're going to comfortably beat Madrid.
Comfortably beat Madrid.
Comfortably beat Madrid.
A
1-0 score is also a comfortable
score.
Normally
we would be doing this on a WhatsApp group, and then I would not hear from you like a day or two after the chat gets over, after the match gets over. Now I have you on camera.
Let's go.
Which is the best possible thing.
I'm owning up to what I've said. So
okay. All right. Now that brings us now to the final fixture, which is Barcelona versus Dortmund.
Can we scrap this?
I mean, I don't want to call any Champions League game a foregone conclusion, but man, this really looks very, very unlikely that Dortmund are going to
I think this is more, you can clearly say that how this outcome of the tie will be more than the Arsenal-Madrid game.
Yeah, and PSG, I mean, honestly, I think it's the most one-sided tie is going to be. Why we're saying that, of course, Dortmund are 12th in the Bundesliga as we record today. Guirassy is having an incredible season in the Champions League. It's not working in the league. Julian Brandt is having a decent season, but apart from that, no one really stands out in this team. The defense, I mean, from the days of the Hummels-led Dortmund defense, we're nowhere near that right now.
They had their peak, last season. They went to the finals.
But
they went to the finals. Hummels-led defensive lineup.
Yeah,
managed to go through.
But they're an absolute.
It was meant to be like last season was meant to be. It was supposed to be there. Royce's swan song ending could have been there.
Yeah,
but
and I mean their defensive midfield. I mean there's a clear lack of energy for them to really compete with teams who can overload them in midfield. And my God, can Barca do that to Dortmund? I mean, see, at the end of the day, Barca play a high line. Dortmund are historically a team which does like space in behind opposition defenses, so there's always like a puncher's chance, as that's a term in boxing, when you are a huge underdog but you land one punch and you can get a knockout, right? A big swing, if it lands you get a knockout, and I think that's a fairly accurate analogy of what Dortmund need to rely on going through this game. And but let's shift our focus to Barcelona right now. Barcelona is undergoing a resurgence under Hansi Flick, who has brought about an immediate impact. Now, I want to speak a little bit about Hansi Flick and the situation before we get into the football itself. Now, Barcelona, of course, they have well-documented financial problems, and that has led to them now having to rely more on La Masia, which shocking. I mean, has produced once again a golden generation of
fleet,
players.
You could say. I mean, everyone's there.
Literally everyone's there, right? Now, Hansi Flick himself is a strict disciplinarian and takes absolutely no nonsense from any of the players. There's this very famous incident which happened earlier this season where Koundé, who was in excellent form for Barcelona, was dropped from the team because he showed up 5 minutes late for a team meeting. So that's the kind of guy he is. He
doesn't even smile after crashing the opponent 6-0, 7 and not one speck of
no satisfaction. He's yeah, whatever. Don't piss me off. One thing about Barcelona is it's very comparable to, I would say, Bayern, Madrid and Manchester United, where the whole media environment around that team is so toxic. It gets real bad real fast, and the amount of pressure if you find yourself under is a lot.
I mean, Barca haven't helped themselves in this regard also. Yeah. I mean, the financial problems that you mentioned right now, and the way Laporta has been gone about his business and says one thing about the players in front of the media one day and the next day is gone.
Absolutely. And
I mean, he did that to Xavi also, no? He came out and said that
was
Xavi
the
is our
exact-
manager for the foreseeable future. He's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Xavi was the one who was saying all the while that regardless of what the clubs say and want of me, I will be leaving at the end of the season.
Yeah.
They managed to convince him to stay.
And then
a week later, they're like, bye-bye, Xavi.
And that he was a victim of this whole kind of media complex you were speaking about. Hansi Flick does not speak Spanish, refuses to learn Spanish. He's like, that's not my problem anymore.
That's the
like
best way to go about it.
Modern problems require modern solutions. Like, I'm not going to learn the language itself, right? So, I think he has brought about this brand of football, which we're going to refer to a third member of the show for. Now, if you don't play a 4-3-3 in Barcelona, you're sacked immediately, okay? So it is a 4-3-3, but more modified towards like a 4-2-3-1. So I'm going to start off with a 4-3-3 over here. Now, what happens during build-up is that Dani Olmo normally drifts more towards a number 10 position, giving that guy whose name I told you I'll forget.
Pasado?
Whatever his name is.
Pasado. Please don't, burn me for
He's a very good player and I should learn his name. I completely apologize. But he sits back and then you have Pedri, who is having
an incredible season.
Like, wow, what an absolutely incredible player who literally does it all. And I do not say this lightly, but he reminds me so much of Bruno Fernandes, where he shows up anywhere on the pitch which is required. He's tenacious when it comes to the tackles as well. I mean, he's not a strong guy, but he's very tenacious. He does his defensive roles extremely well as well too. You have fullbacks who are very much encouraged to drive forward as much as possible. And the reason they do that is that they have so much space on the wings because the opposition is so scared of these two players, right?
Yep.
And that is Rafinha and Lamine Yamal. You have Lewandowski. Now, Lewandowski does something very interesting. He's doing that Kane movement where he drops back to bring one or two defenders with him. And that space is going to be extremely aggressively attacked by these two players over here.
Of course it is.
Right? But his link-up play is not like Kane's. He's not coming here to get the ball and then try to like play a good pass forward. He's just trying to occupy the opposition defense. And when he comes deep as an opposition defense, you have to mark Lewandowski. You cannot leave him.
You can't leave him then.
You cannot leave him. I mean, even with him being marked, he scored 35 goals this season, right? So that's one thing about Barcelona, one form of attack for Barcelona. But what I find especially interesting about this Barcelona team is the way they are set up out of possession. Now, Barcelona, of course, are trying to be very heavy in the way they press. That's a typical Barcelona setup. But how do you do that with a 36 or 37-year-old striker? So when you have, let's say, you're playing against a 4-3-3, right? Which is what most teams normally play with. Now, most teams will, of course, try to build out from over here. This guy is not going to be able to cover these passing angles, right? What does he do is that Flick has realized that the best way to use Kane is to just be a guy...
Lewandowski.
Oh, yeah. Lewandowski he's just going to cut the passing angles to the pivot midfielder, right? He's just there. If the ball is here, he'll come here. If the ball is here, he'll come here. His job is to make sure that this guy doesn't
Center midfield doesn't get the ball easily. They are forced to go outside, play out from the wings.
And now who's going to attack with these two? You have two young, pacey men who are hungry for the ball, which is Lamine Yamal and Rafinha. So these guys actually occupy both of the centre backs. And like I said, they're extremely aggressive full-backs. Then cover the wing backs. So in this position, what this does is it forces the team to go out wide. The moment you go out wide, your entire team can switch
to one side,
pressurize
them there.
This side, right? And now this guy is like alone over here, but for him to find this ball across all the way to the pitch is something which can be easily dealt with, right? What ends up happening is that you then have your goalkeeper trying to kick the ball long in these areas where you have two excellent centre backs, Kumarsi and Inigo Martinez, who by the way, again, Hansi Flick wanted to sell this guy after preseason,
Hmm.
before preseason. He saw 2 games of him play into preseason, and now he's the starting centre back
yeah.
of Barcelona, which in itself is a very incredible story. But that is what this whole Barcelona team does. They set up in their out of possession in a way to shepherd the ball to one side of the pitch, and then everybody you will see situations where all the Barcelona people are on like this side of the pitch, right? If there are long balls in behind, they're okay. They will deal with it because it takes a long time for the ball to reach there, and they are able to recover over here. So this, I think, is a key reason as to why Hansi Flick has been so successful. Of course, one other additional aspect of their game when they are in possession is their ability to not just play the Barcelona tiki-taka way, which they don't really do. They have a lot of possession.
They're moving out of that.
But these runs are found by long balls always. They really do exploit the space in behind defenses. And that is, I think, a very key kind of difference between the Barcelona of old and the Barcelona of today. Of course, it helps when you have like one Rafinha who's been
getting a Ballon d'Or shot and one incredible young region.
So let me just say, Rafinha, but 14 goals, 13 assists.
All of this tactical approach is out of the window when you have this one player here who can break the game wide open against any situation. Let that be done
with a red card. Yeah.
That one particular player, I'm going to remove Lewandowski and put him here.
Yeah.
He's the game changer, right? Like if you look at the last round of 16 games, he announced himself in the Champions League big stage.
Yeah.
He got one assist. If everybody goes and watches the highlight of that particular goal,
it's one of the most sexiest passes I've ever seen in my life.
You can see Lamine point and tell Rafinha to stay there, stay out wide. He asks him to maintain his position. He says, "I'll get the ball to you." He beats 2 people, 3 people here, makes his way to this area,
and then Rafinha makes his run.
And then Rafinha darts over here. He makes an out-of-foot pass, if I'm not wrong, all the way here. What a beautiful goal.
If you've played Score Hero, that game where in class when you're not paying attention, you just like score insane goals and get amazing assists, that's Lamine Yamal.
And that's not all that he did, no? Like he scored on, off position, off balance, screamer from outside the box for the second goal that Barca scored. He got a outside the box goal.
And brilliant. I just want to say just a few stats. 13 goals, 14 assists for Lamine Yamal. 17 years old. In history, only 2 people have had a higher goals and assist contribution in the season which they were 17 years old.
Owen? Rooney?
Not even them.
Messi?
Nope. Not even Messi. Pele. He did it in Santos, which is not the European leagues.
Very questionable.
Okay. Cristiano Ronaldo is going to be like, I don't believe that. And Kylian Mbappe. Now, tell me, with that, what is this guy's potential, bro?
It's
scary.
Next level. It's scary. You can't put it in words. I mean, it's not the... I don't know how to say it though. Like, I can't describe him and his playstyle exactly because it's not the close control. You can't get the ball off my feet like Messi. It's not like a direct replica of Messi. He is fast. He's direct. He has incredible flair.
Yeah.
And the ego, the confidence that he has in
himself.
I think that takes him the farthest.
That is something which it's the differentiator. Yeah. His confidence, his fearlessness at the age of 17 to play every game at the top level, to be trying the same things, whether he's playing Leganes or playing Euros final or Champions League quarterfinal tie against Borussia Dortmund. He's going to show up with the same mentality. He's going to try his dribbling. He's going to try his outrageous outside the foot passes. He's going to shoot from outside the box.
He knows he's better than all of them. He knows
absolutely.
The 30-year-old that's playing next to him, he's better than him.
Yeah.
He knows that.
Yeah.
He knows that the 27-year-old Rafinha, he's better than Rafinha as well.
Yeah. And it's great to see the team also back a player like him so much and give him the ball.
Barca have no other option, Akshat. You're putting too much credit on Barca's board and management.
That's true. Alright, so Po, that now brings us to the end of all of our 4 ties. just one last word from you on who do you think is going to go on and win the competition?
I wore the jersey for a reason, baby. So I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna I don't care if you think people are gonna interpret this as me having a bad understanding of the game, but hopes and beliefs.
We just spent like 45 to 50 minutes trying to tell the viewers that we are knowledgeable about the game of football, and then you have a guy telling Arsenal is going to win the Champions League.
I mean, it's the hope that counts, doesn't it? I mean, if you want me to take away the bias, if you want me to take away the emotions in it,
yeah,
I think it's going to be a Madrid-Inter final. If they don't meet before, will they clash before?
I think they might actually.
Okay. In case they don't meet in the semi-finals, I think it'll be an Inter-Madrid final.
I mean, yeah, I would love to watch that game for sure. We know Madrid's winning that game because of dark magic.
It's Madrid.
Yeah. See, I'll be honest, for me, if I'm putting my tactical hat on, I think Barcelona and Inter Milan are the two strongest teams in the competition based on league form, based on Champions League form, based on the matchups they have with other opposition. But Real Madrid tax, dude. That's the only reason why I would even consider Madrid to be in that top echelon pace.
After talking in this episode for so long, I feel that the Super League was the right answer. Remove Madrid from the competition that they've been attached to. Scrap the Champions League.
For a second, I thought, wait, this is really controversial. But
scrap the Champions League. Let's start anew, bro. Let's start afresh.
All right. Before we end this episode, I went on a rabbit hole to find some stats, right? Because Bayern versus Inter, it hit a nostalgia nerve of mine because Bayern and Inter met a lot in the 2010s in Champions League. And one of my favorite players was Arjen Robben. What I wanted to do is I wanted to know if he was the most one-footed player in the world. And by that I mean the highest percentage of goals coming from 1 foot. And I put a filter that the person has had to score more than 100 league goals in their entire, not league goals, but overall goals in their entire career. And I have the list in front of me. Now, I will say that Robben is number 3 on the list with 88% of his 209 goals.
88%
scored this left foot.
Wow.
There are 2 players ahead of him. I want you to guess. And producer Abhi, if you want to take a shot at this as well. Messi is number 9 on the list with 75%.
Is there his other wing partner? Ribéry.
Ribéry's not in the top 10.
He's not there only.
No. Huh?
Give some clue.
Manchester United set piece specialist. David Beckham, 144 goals, 90% of which was scored by his right foot.
So he's second?
He's second. Number 1 is another set piece specialist. Think of the best set piece specialists in football. And he's probably there in that list. He played for Madrid. Roberto Carlos.
Wow.
113 goals, has scored 92% of all of his goals with his left foot. And by the way, this includes headers as well. So it might even be 1%.
How many goals does he have?
113 total.
Wow. That in itself is commendable.
It's commendable. But a few other names is Gareth Bale on number 4, 85%. Angel Di Maria, number 5 with 85%. Perisic with 80. You'll love this. Santi Cazorla.
Nice.
78%.
With his?
With his...
Because he's ambidextrous. He can play with both his feet. That's the tricky part about this.
Literally, I've written down the foot of every player apart from Cazorla because I thought the Arsenal fan will know and I won't have to say
He doesn't have a preferred foot.
But clearly, he's number 8 of all time.
That's the shocking part because I remember an instance where he's standing on a corner. The defenders in the mix over there, they're telling him, no, switch from outswinger to in-swinger. And he casually switches sides.
I mean, he was a great technician with both feet as well. Finally, Messi number 9 and last but not least was Robin Van Persie, who scored 75% goals on his left foot. So just a stat to end this episode.
Usually it's the lefties. Usually it's the lefties.
That's actually a good takeaway there. All right, so you have heard it all. We have broken down the Champions League quarterfinals in this episode of the Unathletic. I don't know why I looked at the board as if I didn't know what the name of our show is. But you can find us on Instagram, on Twitter, on YouTube, on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts. Yeah, why not? We're everywhere, so please do share these videos with your friends. It helps us out a lot. We're a new and budding podcast slash show slash banter something. And we sincerely apologize for those of you who had to listen to Poe say that Arsenal are winning the Champions
Sure.
League. We'll be
You'll
sure to
thank
address
me.
this in future episodes.
You'll thank me later, guys.
But thanks for tuning in and see you next time.
Bye-bye.